Immortal technique. Rise up, young brother. This is not your time to die.
¡Viva la revolución! ¡Viva la revolución!
My name is Raekwon Taylor, and I have titled this project Immortal Technique in the Third World. Enjoy. Warning: this video may contain vulgar language not suitable for young children. Parental discretion is advised. Felipe Andres Coronel, known more commonly by the pseudonym Immortal Technique, is a Peruvian-American rap artist born in Lima, Peru on February 19, 1978. In 1981, at the age of 2, he and his family moved to Harlem to seek political asylum. He knows firsthand the struggles of poverty due to the knowledge of his own life and the lives of his ancestors. He is a self-proclaimed revolutionary, and his lyrics are largely commentary on very controversial issues such as class struggle, socialism, poverty, religion, government, imperialism, and even institutional racism. He began rapping at the age of 9 years old. At first, he did it just for enjoyment. It was a hobby. Once he was in high school, he started taking rapping a lot more seriously. As a teen growing up in the projects, Technique was a very angry and violent young man. He was the type of guy you just knew would grow up to become a criminal. But sometimes assumptions like that prove to be very far from the truth. Immortal Technique may have been a brash young man and had led a very scandalous and illicit life in his younger years, but after spending a year in prison after a year in school, he became a very different person. In an interview with Larissa Alexandrova from TheRawStory.com, Technique was quoted as saying, "I went to a party and me and my people from school got into a gigantic fight with a bunch of crack dealers and we beat the fuck out of them." And looking back at this as a young adult, as someone who was just crawling to adulthood at this time, I think to myself, you know what? You're lucky you didn't get yourself killed with that bullshit. This quote shows that Technique has learned from his mistakes and has become a better man because of them. His time in prison has changed him from an immature young boy to an educated man. Felipe is a leader worthy of a legacy that spans from generation to generation. During his short time on this planet, he has influenced and changed the lives and beliefs of people of every race, creed, and color. He is not a leader in the literal sense. He is the leader of a movement and a way of thinking as opposed to being the leader of a religion or group. He has changed the way many people think, including myself. So he does, in fact, deserve the legacy that he's been given. He deserves far more recognition than he's been given. And I am determined to do my part by using this documentary to help him attain the acknowledgement he so deserves. Felipe is a leader of free speech. He was a loose cannon as a teen and abused his First Amendment right as often as possible. But after his experience being incarcerated, he straightened out and began to use his open-mindedness to reach out to the world. He uses lyrics in a special way in an attempt to help others see through his eyes and get them to understand how he thinks. He did it to better his country and make people aware of all the problems going on around the world. He didn't care how much he offended people because sometimes that's the only way to get your point across. He wanted equality between all human beings. He was just trying to do what he believed was best. He, unlike conventional political leaders, understands that he has different beliefs and values from others and could be wrong. For example, in his song The Third World, he says, "They pray to white Spanish Jesus, whose face is this? But they never talk about the black Pope Galasius." Religion is always seen like it's taboo subject matter, yet Immortal Technique speaks on it without regard for whomever he might offend. His knowledge about society and religion is very vast and extensive, so people tend to take his words as fact without doing research of their own. He is a very well-educated man, although his vulgarity may lead you to believe otherwise.
I'm from where the Catholic Church is some racist shit. They help Europe and America rape this bitch. They pray to white Spanish Jesus, whose face is this? But never talk about the black Pope Galasius. I'm from where Soviet rep.
Immortal Technique is about 7 albums and a plethora of mixtapes, so he won't be soon forgotten. His music has transcended the genre and caused people to look at rap in a different light. His lyrics are about revolution and anarchy as opposed to women, drugs, and guns. So his fan base is intelligent, unlike that of Lil Wayne and Nicki Minaj. His lyrics cause people to think about problems in society and in our very own government, so there's been a lot of controversy surrounding his music. Immortal Technique has also done some charity work in past years. Between 2008 and 2009, he worked with non-profit organization Omade International in order to build an orphanage for kids struggling in war-torn Afghanistan. He funded this project with his own money, no grants, no donations, just money that he raised doing shows for his album Revolutionary Volume 1. Technique not only funded the project, but also oversaw and assisted in the creation of it. Such a selfless act is not very uniform for rap artists, but in his song Hollywood Drive-By, he says,
and I don't market revolution, I live it. What you think cause you fake, everyone else is a gimmick.
What he is trying to say is that his lyrics are genuine. He is a revolutionary, and he wants you to see that. He isn't just some commercial gimmick like other artists of his genre. Technique's charity outreach doesn't just end with his work with Omade International. He also works with underprivileged children who have fallen victim to the streets and ended up in prison. Here's a clip where he talks about the time he spent with them.
I was part of a teaching program up in the Bronx at Horizons, and what I saw was a lot of kids that may have been there for one crime or another, but all of them, they weren't stupid. They were really smart kids, and the reason that they were in there and other children weren't had nothing to do with their guilt, Vlad. It was just that their parents don't have $5,000 or $10,000 of disposable income to pay for bail. Like, kids is just sitting in there on like 100,000 or 50,000 bail, and their parents just, they're on Section 8, some of them, and the rent is like $175 a month. So it's like, I gotta save up now a year's worth of rent, because I'm barely scraping by in one of the most expensive cities in the world, and I can't get my child out of prison. And that's unfortunately a horrific truth about the justice system, that it's built and it's structured for specific people. There's been a quote that I've seen circulating around the internet. It's from W.E.B. Du Bois about how this system wasn't designed to protect certain people.
See how he empathized with the underprivileged youth and their families? That's the kind of thing you could never get from someone who was born into an affluent family. He led those children to better themselves so that they would never end up in prison again if their families ever obtained the money to pay their bail. Technique knows what it's like firsthand to be in their shoes after growing up in Harlem and doing charity work in poverty-stricken places like Afghanistan. So his stories of struggle and strife could really help those children out and give them a better future. A future better than the prison industrial complex could ever give them. Technique also talks a lot about racism and how society views minorities. Here's a clip of Immortal Technique's speech given to the Left Forum back in 2014.
The difference between black and Latino immigrants and the European immigrants that came has a stark difference. And why? It's because we've been fed this mythology that people from Italy or from Greece or from parts of Eastern Europe came here and just pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. Why can't y'all niggas do the same thing? How come you Latino people can't get it together? Well, here's the difference, ladies and gentlemen, that when people first came to the country in the early 1900s or before that, when illegal immigration first started in 1492, I think that it's important for us to note that a lot of people had not just applied for citizenship, but they also applied for whiteness. And that plays into the racism that the doctor was discussing before. In other words, if you did not apply...
Would you ever imagine that a seemingly uncivilized man like Immortal Technique could converse so eloquently and intelligently? His commentary on racism in society is something I personally find to be extremely intriguing. I find most other rappers who try to be revolutionary to be bereft of intelligence, or at the very least, intelligent things to say. Saying F the system changes nothing. You must educate the people about the problems at hand in order to rally them and cause change. And that's exactly what Immortal Technique's been doing. Immortal Technique is more than just a rapper. He is revolution incarnate. He has set forth changes in motion that will change America and the rest of the world forever. He is a leader of free thought that has built up a legacy that will last far after his demise. He is truly a revolutionary of great proportions, and I thank him. Well, this was the end of my video, and thank you for watching.
So racism preaching the gospel is devilish. A fake church called the Prophet Muhammad a terrorist. Forgetting God is not religion, but a spiritual bond. And Jesus is the most quoted prophet in the Quran. They're gonna bomb innocent people trying to murder Saddam when they gave him those chemical weapons to go to war with Iran. This is the information that they hold back from Peter Jennings, cause Condoleezza Rice is just a new age Sally Hemings. I break it down with critical language and spiritual anguish. The Judas I hang with, the guilt of betraying Christ. You murdered him, stole his religion, and painted him white. Translated and psychologically tainted philosophy. Conservative political right-wing ideology. Glued together sloppily the blasphemy of a nation. I got my back to the wall, cause I'm facing assassination. Guantanamo Bay, federal incarceration. How could this be the land of the free, home of the brave, indigenous Holocaust, and the home of the slaves? Corporate America dancing offbeat to the rhythm. They really think this country never sponsored terrorism. Human rights violations, we continue the saga. El Salvador and the Contras in Nicaragua. And on top of that, they still want to take me to prison just cause I won't trade humanity for patriotism. And that's realism, you punk motherfucker.